Welcome to day 4 or part 4 of building a yoga class. So this is for new teachers or those of you who are interested in building a go-to sequence for your personal practice, whatever it is. So if you haven't seen parts 1, 2, and 3, please go back and watch those because you need to know your target audience or who you're teaching. That's your yoga class, your yoga teaching topic or yoga teaching niche. You need to know their pain points. What are they looking for? What do you need to help them with? And you also need to know what your theme or title of your class is going to be for this specific class. This is just a one class thing. So you created a theme or a class name around your demographic and your topic. You can do this for however many, there's so many options for as many times as you want. So now we're actually going to go into sequencing or outlining that yoga class. I have a few resources for you to help you with this process. Number one is this yoga class map, which I designed, and it's really cute. It's a little infographic that may help you if you're into colors like I am. But I also have a video that some of you may have already seen. It's the 10-step guide to yoga class sequencing, 10-step guide, something like that. It's 23 minutes. It's on YouTube. I will post a link to it. Please watch that either before or after this to get a good idea of how to sequence a general class. I made that a couple of years ago, but it's still relevant today and a lot of people seem to like it. So watch that and to get a feel for the general sequence. And so we're going to go through this a little bit fast as I sequence my class for do an outline for my yoga for hikers, which was my topic. And I also have my ebook or workbook, which is available for $27 on my website, ashesyoga.com. I also have a template that you can use if you like to write out things. These are available with a mini course on my website as well for $7. It's in an interactive PDF, so you can either print it or you can type in the little boxes. Here's 3 pages long, and the 3 pages correspond with the 3 sections of our yoga outline. So let's get to that. So your yoga class is going to look like this. It's going to start with a warm-up. It's going to progress to a peak pose or higher energy level, and then you're going to come back down and bring them down. And about here, 10% of your class time, Shavasana. So you're ready for some Z's. And about here to here, either halfway or 2/3 of the way through, you're going to do a peak pose. So my class was happy hips for hikers. So yoga for hikers and working on hip mobility, hip strength, just like working the hips because that's a pain point. So how do you get those hips feeling good and what poses are good for that? And that's going to become your peak pose. So I can also create a theme. A theme around this could be something, the hips are like the emotional center. So you might, there might be a theme of creating happiness in uncomfortable situations or finding joy in the discomforts, something like that you can bring into your class, what you can say to your class. So peak pose, peak theme. So I'm going to choose a peak pose because hikers are always standing and you can do this pose while you're standing. I'm going to do a standing figure 4 forward fold. What that looks like, you're standing, you've got an ankle over the knee like this, and you fold forward, touching the ground or touching some blocks. My peak pose is going to be standing, figure 4, forward fold. I'm actually going to put that down the center section at the bottom. Hurrah! It's the peak pose. We made it there. From there, I'm going to ask myself, based on my 10 steps, if I'm going to start, introducing yourself. That's number 1. Introduce yourself, introduce your class, introduce what you're teaching, how long the duration of the class is. So hi, I'm Ashley. This is a Yoga for Hikers class, and it's a 60-minute class. And today we're going to focus on hip mobility. So grab a couple blocks and a strap or your hiking pole if you're doing something fun like that, and let's get to it. So to start, let's think about what's going to help with the theme of finding joy and figure 4 fold. Honestly, I'm a big fan of just starting in child's pose. Child's pose is great for the hips and also gives you a good guideline to check on people's hips. Seated pose is good for this too, but it's a little more uncomfortable. So it gives you a good guideline to see who needs props, who's got really tight hips and hip flexors for those in your class. So for this one, I'm going to start in child's pose. This is the warm-up section. From child's pose, let's look. Part 2 is starting pose. Okay, pick that. And then your breath setup. So connect to the moment, circular breath, how to use the breath, mention those things while you're in your first pose. And then we move on to spinal warm-ups. Spinal warm-ups are really great just to getting into the area around your spine, your origin. So they're breath-based movements. This is for a vinyasa flow style of class or power yoga. Power yoga, vinyasa flow, this works great. You can, this is not a great sequence for yin or restorative, so if that's what you're going for, you might try different kind of sequencing. Well, from child's pose, the easiest thing to do is come to hands and knees. So I'm going to do cat and cow. It's a common one. I'm going to find that one a lot. And then because we're working hips, I also want to do some hip strengthening, and we're going to get into that right away. So spinal extensions, where you extend one arm, the opposite leg back, and then pull in and out and in and out. So spinal extensions. Core work is not in the 10 steps. It's kind of like add it wherever. So this is, this is going to be just core. That's part of core. That's part of your spine. That's a little bit of a crunch motion. So spinal extensions. From there, you head into sun salutations. You could do A and B, you could do just A, you could do however many you want to do. But with those sun salutations, if you're very familiar with them, sun salutation A and B, think about what you can add to the basic traditional sun salutation to get into your main thing that you're doing. Like, what little thing could you add? If you're doing shoulders or heart opening, you might add a hands behind the back or a pull down of the arms or something that helps you with your main focus. So if I got sun sal A here, reach up, forward fold, half lift, blah, blah, blah. Maybe because I'm working on hips a little bit in different ways, thinking of working both into this kind of pose, so the external rotation of the hip, but also the reverse of that. So maybe we're gonna add some squats, some yogi squats in between our sun salutations. So I'm just gonna make a note of that here and go yogi squats. And they're not like long holding squats. They're just gonna be little ones. So instead of just coming to a forward fold, you're gonna step forward and squat. This is optional. Sun salutation B, maybe I'll do 2 of them. You might do 3 A's or might do 2 A's, 1 A, whatever. I want to add some hip circles before we step forward. So I'm just gonna add here hip circles. And that's our warm up. That's like, all right, warm up. And then I have a simple sequence to getting into standing poses. And that's just using up to 5 poses, doesn't have to be 5 poses, with an internally rotated leg, so a crescent lunge, and 5 poses with an externally rotated. Of course, because we're getting specific, you might not need, if you're doing back bends and stuff, you might not need warrior poses. But to keep it simple here, let's go up to 5 poses, right and left, vinyasa in between if you're doing a flow class to transition to the other side. And some really great areas to add core would be here and here. So before you're standing and after. So if you wanted to add some core stuff or some back bend type stuff, this would be a great place to add side planks or side plank. And this might be a good place for boat pose. Or maybe you don't want that. Let's not have that one. Let's just do some side planks in the middle. I decided that right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do these real quick. Let's go crescent lunge. Let's do a crescent lunge series. High lunge, crescent lunge, and then a lunge twist, warrior 3, just standing. And in this standing pose, standing with a leg lift, extend leg, half splits. Half splits? Sure. Now I'm just coming up with these on the fly, I'm gonna work through these tomorrow or today, the next video, when I practice this class in a quick flow to see how the transitions go. So then we're gonna do some side plank because we gotta get our core heated. Then we do an externally rotated sequence of 5, so like the warrior series. So let's keep it simple. Warrior 2, reverse, warrior, side angle, triangle, pyramid. So this doesn't really have a whole lot to do with this one. It's just getting our legs nice and heated up. Where this one is actually coming into this. So you know what I'm gonna do instead? Because I'm writing this out now, I see standing with a leg extension actually is a great way to get back into standing figure 4. So there's two things I could do. Questionable. I could do this one first, shift this first one down so it transitions into standing figure 4, forward fold. So we can swap these two. Or I could repeat this sequence quicker, or repeat to get into that standing leg extension to come into this. So that's up to you. For this, I say I'm just gonna swap them. So I'm gonna do the warrior pose sequence first, and then the crescent lunge sequence, because I'm gonna take that off and then put standing figure 4 up here as our peak pose. Okay, so that's what we're headed towards. Crescent lunge, lunge twist, warrior 3. And doing this first helps heat up our legs to get ready for standing figure 4, forward fold. So we did that, and then it might be like a nice little shake out of the leg afterwards. From there, kind of gonna cool down. So after that, cool down or stretch. So the cool down isn't just a cool down, it's also the stretching portion of our practice. Stretching and relaxing. So this is like heat building, the main bigger energy, and this is like stretchy. Come down to a seated pose. This is warm up. So yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna come down after standing figure 4 fold. We'll come down to a seat. First, let's go a forward fold, maybe wide leg forward fold because that's getting into the hips, or head to knee pose. So both the cool down and the warm up in your classes don't have to change a whole lot. This is where you want to create a lot of variety. The cool down can actually be very similar, so you can stick with the same similar thing rather than making it always feeling you have to do something different. So we can do a forward fold. Where's my chalk? Forward fold. This is seated now. Head to knee pose, which is also a forward fold. We can do a twist, seated twist. Could even add a pigeon pose. So do something a little bit deeper. How about seated pigeon? We can add core. If you want to add more core here, this is the place to do it. Core. Put a boat pose in there. I might delete that because we're not working on core in this class. We're working on our hips. Reverse plank. It's always good to do a reversing after. And then we're going to come to lying down on our backs. Bridge, twist, inversion, happy baby, and then shavasana. Does that look good? I mean, it might be. We might want to add some more, but that's why we're going to practice this. We're going to practice it doing a quicker flow, not the whole thing with the exact time, but just flowing through it to be like, oh, okay, this, might feel good, might not feel good. So here is our current class, yoga for hikers, happy hips. That's that. So you can go through and do that yourself. Then we're going to practice it. So if you have any questions, I know I went through that last part kind of quick, but it's cooling down, it's stretching. So if there are specific bigger stretches you want to hold and really feel into, maybe your peak pose is over here, that's okay. If you're working more on stretching, you can do that and you can lead up to that. Just thinking of the way that the spine moves, like you want to do a twist feels good, a forward fold, a back bend, side bends, lateral bends. Try to find a few ways to get back into that kind of thing. So now I'm going to practice it. So stay tuned for tomorrow's video where we practice this in a quicker way. And I'm just going to look at this, set my yoga mat up, and practice. All right, see you then.